So my name is Carmen Staaf. I play piano. I also write music, and I'm primarily a jazz musician, although I grew up studying classical piano. So I'm from Seattle, Washington, and when I was a kid, I was about 6 years old when my older brothers were both taking piano lessons. And so we had like an upright piano, not the greatest piano, but a piano at home that they would play on. And I used to really want to learn. I would look at their music and see all these dots and not understand it. And I would go to the piano and just like make up songs on my own, by ear, the way you do, like figure out how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb or whatever. But their piano teacher said that I was too young to start because I was 6 years old. And I said, but Mom, I really want to play. I begged my parents, and they found me this very kind of serious, strict Russian classical piano teacher. And I'm so grateful for that because she became this really important kind of mentor to me growing up, my piano teacher. And she passed away last year, but she was, like a mother to me in a way, musically. And I realized I was so lucky because I got a chance to have somebody with me, kind of going, okay, here, this is phrasing, this is how you read music, this is what music, like the whole package of not just how to read the notes, but this is what music is about, like this is how it relates to life. So I grew up, I was taking classical piano lessons, and then one of my older brothers started playing the tenor saxophone. And because he played tenor saxophone, naturally, people started giving him recordings of people like Sonny Rollins and Stan Getz and Lester Young and Coleman Hawkins. And then they gave us some Count Basie big band and Duke Ellington band, Tommy Dorsey, like different types of jazz to listen to. And he started bringing those records home, and I just totally fell in love with it. And I was like, what is this sound? I want to do this. And I remember my first transcription that I ever did was actually of an Ella Fitzgerald solo. Do you guys know who that is? Ella Fitzgerald? You do, and you do. Good. Yeah, and a lot of you guys, right? So she was a wonderful vocalist who was known for scat singing, for being able to improvise these amazing jazz solos just using her voice, using syllables. And I think it was Charlie Parker who said something like, if Ella Fitzgerald played an instrument, like played a horn, we would all be out of a job because she's like a better improviser than all of us are on our saxophone or whatever. But so that was one of my first influences was singing along with Ella Fitzgerald solos, which, by the way, I highly recommend you all do. If you want to learn how to improvise jazz, sing along with Ella. You cannot go wrong. Or anyone you like, really. So I started to explore, like, okay, well, that's Ella Fitzgerald, it's Duke Ellington, what's Antonio Carlos Jobim. Okay, so I started getting into Brazilian music and listening to, there's a great record of Stan Getz playing with Jobim. Does anyone know about that? That's a beautiful record of bossa nova and samba, like Brazilian jazz. So I got really into that, and then from there I started finding other piano players I liked. So there's a piano player named Errol Garner, who was one of my big favorites. You know Errol Garner?
Actually, no.
Okay, I'm going to write this down for you later, but Errol Garner is like one of my desert island hero pianists because whenever he plays, it swings. It just swings, and you hear it and you're just like, I just want to dance to this and just live in this rhythmic world. And there's just so much joy in it. So loved Errol Garner, got into Oscar Peterson and Keith Jarrett, Herbie Hancock, McCoy Tyner, all these great jazz pianists. But I didn't just listen to piano players. I also was really into, of course, tenor players because of my brother, but also, Miles Davis and Lee Morgan and Clifford Brown, trumpet players, alto players, Charlie Parker, obviously, Cannonball Adderley, Phil Woods. I just pretty much transcribed whatever I could get my hands on. And I would literally write out the solos. Does anyone do that? Anyone transcribe in here? So that's a thing that I would recommend doing if you think, you want to learn more about jazz and improvising and you don't even have to write it out. It could just be a matter of singing along with the solo like I did with Ella. Or you could try to learn it on your instrument. It doesn't have to be an improvised solo. It could also just be learn the melody to a song by ear. And it could even be something like, I know Mary Had a Little Lamb, or I know this pop song, or I heard this Taylor Swift song and I want to figure out the melody on my instrument. All of that is just so good for your musicianship. And it's really like, what I did was just whatever I liked, whatever drew me in, like whether it was a Horace Silver tune, where he was playing a little interesting little piano part that I wanted to learn, or I got interested in music from different parts of the world, so I was listening to like an oud player from Sudan, or like juju music from Nigeria, like just anything that I heard, I was just trying to find all these different sounds, and then I would just sit at the piano and kind of find my way through whatever I could hear, and it didn't have to be perfect, it was just me having fun with it, right? So that's kind of what I did in high school. And then I was lucky because, like you guys, I had a really great high school band director who, would take us. I know you guys have traveled around a lot to play, right, and perform different places. And so I kind of had a similar experience where we got to go to different, cities and perform. And he expected a lot of us. So I'm so grateful for that because I learned how to work on something and do a good job and feel good about it and have fun, and made a lot of friends. And a lot of those friends I'm still friends with, actually. A lot of those people who I went to high school with. And a lot of us actually are playing music, and, whether professionally or not, we're still it's still a big part of our lives. So it's such a cool thing, cool experience to have. So it's awesome that you guys are having that experience. So then I took a year off before I went to college, which is another thing I might recommend. Actually, for me anyway, it was a cool thing. I did a gap year, so I applied for college. I applied for this program that was a double degree program between Tufts and the New England Conservatory in Boston, because I was kind of on the fence about whether I wanted to be a musician or not. I was like, well, I love music, but I also really love academics, and I, wanted to study languages and anthropology and like history and all. I didn't really know exactly where to go, and so I did this double degree program that was 5 years long, where I could do a degree in anthropology from Tufts and then a jazz piano one at NEC. But before I did that, I took a year off and traveled. I went to Cuba and I studied music there and like dance and, just listened to people and learned about stuff. And then I came back and I worked a little bit. I played in like some salsa bands back in Seattle and just got some more life experience, and then I went to college. So that was really cool because that meant that once I got to college, I was more ready to just dive in, and like I really appreciated what I was doing there because I'd had some time away to kind of just be out in the world and also work. Like I worked for a temp agency, and I don't know, maybe some of you guys are gonna work before you go to college anyway, so you don't need that. But for me, it was kind of like, okay, after I'd experienced being out in the workforce for a little bit, then going to college and just getting to do my homework was like a luxury. So I did that for my undergrad. Then I spent some time teaching at Berklee College of Music in Boston in the piano department there. Meanwhile, I also had this health crisis that happened in my life that really took me some years to kind of get back from. So my path was a little different than a lot of my peers because a lot of them kind of went out and just started playing. But for me, I was kind of like, okay, I'm teaching, I'm gonna get going. And then I immediately had this like big health thing. So that was an interesting whole part of my life, which I learned a lot from. And then I eventually did decide, okay, you know what, I'm gonna move to New York. I'm gonna try to do the New York jazz career thing, which I didn't know what it was, but I just moved, went to New York, started playing with people, started doing jam sessions. Also, I was like working many jobs to make ends meet. I was like doing SAT tutoring and teaching piano lessons to little kids and like whatever I could do, to pay rent. And then eventually I started just playing with a lot of different people. I also play accordion. So I was playing like in a Mexican band doing accordion music. I was like playing klezmer music on accordion too, just like all kinds of stuff. And it was all interesting to me. And then eventually so one day I was like, you know what, I really want to go back to school and just focus on piano and just really get into my jazz piano thing in a more focused way again. And so I went to grad school at this program, which at the time was called the Thelonious Monk Institute of Jazz at UCLA. Now it's called the Herbie Hancock Institute. because Herbie Hancock is one of the artistic directors there. And the other person there was Wayne Shorter. So I got a chance to hang out with and study with, basically, Herbie and Wayne, which was like, kind of a dream and hard to believe that it actually happened, but it was amazing. And they also have a lot of other great teachers in that program. So, your learning will never stop, and just things like that are out there where you get a chance to really work with the masters if you decide to pursue this path. And so that's what I did. I was very lucky to get to do that program. And then after that, I got out of school and just started really working and just playing with a lot of different people. I work with the vocalist Dee Dee Bridgewater, so I love vocalists and I love working with them. I work with a violinist named Jenny Scheinman and play in a band with her. I have my own band, my own trio. What else? I co-lead a band with the drummer in my trio. We have a band called Science Fair that has horn players in it. And so I'm just like getting to travel around and play and come to places like this and, play music. And it's kind of amazing. I mean, it's definitely a different lifestyle. There are definitely things that you won't have that your peers might, if you do this path, that your life will look a little bit different. But it's just so much fun to get to play music and do it for a living. And it's kind of an honor because you're coming into all these strangers' towns and they're coming to hear you play and you get to like share this experience with them. So it's very cool. So that was a long-winded introduction. Does anyone have any questions for me about any of that? Like what I did or how I got here? Yeah.
Michael and I saw your show on Saturday.
Oh, you were there too? Oh, cool. Thanks for going. Awesome.
It was really cool stuff.
Thanks. Yeah, I met Michael there. And
I've been listening to your CD and I love it.
oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah, anyone else want to praise me or no? Just kidding. Yeah.
Have you been to other islands?
No, I haven't, but it's funny that you mentioned that because one of the groups that I play in or the projects that I'm part of is this dance troupe it's a program called Speak, and it's actually coming back here in February, and we will go to the other islands. And I think we'll come back here. I don't know if we'll come here, but we will be at the Kahilu Theater. And that's a really cool show that involves tap dance, Kathak dance, which is Indian classical dance, like from India, and Hindustani classical music, and then jazz. So there's all these different elements to it that all kind of meet and communicate in this cross-cultural way. It's really cool. So yeah, if you guys are interested, you should come to that because it's going to be cool. And also if you're into dance at all, I don't know if anyone dances here. Yeah, it's really neat because, tap dance, I assume you've all seen tap dance, right? Okay, so it's like a percussive dance tradition where people use their feet to make rhythms. Well, Kathak dance is the same thing. They dance barefoot, but they put bells around their ankles so that it makes like a jingling sound every time they slap the floor with their foot. So they're actually dancing like these rhythms, these amazingly complex rhythms, while making, images with their hands and stuff, and it's super cool.